Have you ever had someone just disappear from your life? No big fight, no dramatic ending. They were just there one day and gone the next, and you're left wondering why. Maybe it was a best friend who suddenly felt like a stranger, a relationship that fizzled out for no clear reason, or someone you thought would be in your life forever who just wasn't anymore. What if I told you that sometimes these aren't accidents, that there's actually a divine purpose behind these painful exits? Today, we're diving deep into why God removes people from your life without warning and why it might be the biggest blessing you didn't know you needed.
Let's be real for a second. Losing people hurts. It doesn't matter if it's sudden or gradual. When someone who mattered to you is no longer there, it leaves a hole. You replay conversations in your head. What did I do wrong? Could I have tried harder? Why didn't I see this coming? And here's the thing. Sometimes there are no answers, no closure, no final conversation, just silence. But what if that silence is actually God's protection? What if the absence of answers is the answer itself? Think about it. When God removes someone without explanation, he's not being cruel. He's being intentional. Because if you knew the full reason in that moment, you might fight to keep them. You might hold on when you should let go. Sometimes God has to remove people quietly because he knows we'd never willingly walk away from what's hurting us.
Here's a truth bomb. Some people in your life aren't there to help you grow. They're there to keep you comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of growth. God sees the version of you that you're meant to become. He sees your potential, your purpose, your destiny. And sometimes the people around you can't see that, or worse, they don't want you to reach it. Maybe they kept you small with their doubts. Maybe they drained your energy with constant drama. Maybe they were jealous of your light and constantly dimmed it. These aren't always bad people. They might have loved you in their own way, but their season in your life ended. And when God removes them, he's not punishing you. He's making room. Room for opportunities you couldn't see. Room for relationships that will actually pour into you. Room for the blessings that were always meant to be yours but couldn't arrive because your hands were too full holding on to the wrong people. You can't receive with a closed fist. Sometimes God has to pry your fingers open. Here's a truth bomb. Some people in your life aren't there to help you grow. They're there to keep you comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of growth. God sees the version of you that you're meant to become. He sees your potential, your purpose, your destiny. And sometimes the people around you can't see that, or worse, they don't want you to reach it. Maybe they kept you small with their doubts. Maybe they drained your energy with constant drama. Maybe they were jealous of your light and constantly dimmed it. These aren't always bad people. They might have loved you in their own way, but their season in your life ended. And when God removes them, he's not punishing you. He's making room. Room for opportunities you couldn't see. Room for relationships that will actually pour into you. Room for the blessings that were always meant to be yours but couldn't arrive because your hands were too full holding on to the wrong people. You can't receive with a closed fist. Sometimes God has to pry your fingers open.
Let me tell you a story. Imagine you're driving toward what you think is your destination. You've got your GPS set, you're confident in the route, but suddenly there's a roadblock. You're forced to take a detour. You're frustrated. This wasn't the plan. But as you take this new route, you stumble upon opportunities you never would have found on your original path. That detour? It was divine redirection. That's exactly what happens when God removes people from your life. You think you're losing your way, but really you're being redirected to where you actually need to be. the job opportunity that came after that friendship ended, the self-discovery that happened in the silence after that relationship, the strength you found when you had to stand alone. None of that would have happened if they had stayed. God's plans are always bigger than our understanding. His view is panoramic, while ours is just a snapshot. He sees the accidents you'd get into, the heartbreaks you'd endure, the dead-end paths you'd waste years walking down, and he lovingly, quietly removes the catalysts before you even know you need saving.
Now, let's talk about why it happens without warning, because that's the part that stings the most, right? Here's the thing. If God gave you a countdown, you'd spend that entire time trying to fix things, trying to change them, trying to change yourself to make them stay. You'd negotiate, compromise, and shrink yourself down to keep them comfortable. The sudden removal is actually mercy. It's a clean break, like ripping off a Band-Aid. It's sharp, but it's quick, and it allows you to start healing immediately. Gradual separation? That's torture. That's the slow fade where you're constantly confused, constantly hoping, constantly reopening the same wound. But sudden removal, it forces you to face reality. There's no false hope to cling to. No, maybe if I just try harder. It's done. And now you have to move forward. And here's what's beautiful about it. In that forced forward motion, you discover who you really are, not who you were with them, not who you tried to be for them, but who you actually are when stripped down to your core. That's where transformation happens, in the aftermath, in the empty space that feels scary at first, but becomes sacred ground for your growth.
If you look back on your life, you'll probably see a pattern. The people God removed, they were preparing you for the people He was bringing. That toxic friend who left, they made room for the genuine connections you have now. That relationship that ended, it taught you what you actually need in a partner. That business partner who betrayed you, they showed you the value of discernment and pushed you to build something even better on your own. Every removal is a lesson. Every exit is preparation. And here's something wild. Sometimes God removes people not just for your growth, but for theirs too. Maybe your paths needed to diverge so you could both become who you're meant to be. Maybe staying together would have kept both of you stuck. It's not always about someone being wrong or bad. Sometimes it's just about seasons changing. And fighting to keep autumn from becoming winter doesn't work. It just makes you exhausted. So what do you do in that painful space between the removal and the blessing? First, resist the urge to fill the void immediately. Don't rush into new friendships, relationships, or connections just because you're uncomfortable with being alone. The void exists for a reason. It's teaching you something. Second, get curious instead of bitter. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me, ask, what is this happening for me? That shift in perspective changes everything. Third, trust the process even when it doesn't make sense. Faith isn't about understanding, it's about trusting that the one who sees everything has your best interest at heart. Use this time for self-reflection. Journal, pray, sit with yourself. Rediscover hobbies you abandoned. Rebuild your identity outside of other people's validation. This is your wilderness season. And just like biblical figures who had their greatest encounters with God in the wilderness, this isolation is where you'll hear His voice the clearest. The quiet isn't empty. It's full of possibility. Look, I know this isn't easy to hear when you're in the thick of the pain, when you're missing someone and nothing makes sense. But I promise you this, one day you'll look back and thank God for the people He removed. You'll see clearly what you couldn't see then. You'll understand why the door had to close for new windows to open. God doesn't remove people to hurt you. He removes them to heal you, to elevate you, to position you for what's next. So if you're in that painful space right now, hold on. Your better is coming. The people who are meant to stay will stay. The ones who left,
They were never meant to go the distance with you anyway, and that's not a loss. That's divine alignment. Trust the process. Trust the removal. Trust that God is writing a story far better than the one you had planned. If this resonated with you, drop a comment below sharing your experience. And remember, you're not alone in this journey.